Good morning, class. I had given you homework on feudalism. Have you all researched it? Can someone tell me here what's the definition of feudalism?
Vadere ka beta, vadere ka beta.
Class, behave yourself.
Ma'am, I know.
Yes, Ahmed, you go ahead.
Many people in Pakistan, even today, think of feudalism as parallel to a Vadera and believe that Pakistan continues to be feudal. Feudalism here is often associated with having a feudal mindset or possessing feudal attitudes. This mindset and these attitudes are found to manifest in the abuse of power and failure to comply by rules. Thus, it becomes even more important to dispel this myth and try to explain why this perception is wrong. And so, let us take you through a journey to explore feudalism in its truest form. Feudal and feudalism do so rather loosely. They are unfamiliar with the fact that feudalism is primarily an economic system where the agricultural economy dominates completely, where there is little urbanization, where each unit consumes much of what it produces, with little exchange between other settlements and areas. It is a concept that relates specifically to the agricultural sector. To further reinstate the concept, let's discuss the criteria which constitutes feudalism as developed by Hamza Alavi. Firstly, it refers to unfree labor rendered not necessarily in the form of labor services but taking a variety of possible forms. In addition, it relates to extra economic coercion in the extraction of the surplus from the direct producer. Moreover, it refers to a fusion of economic and political power at the point of production and a localized structure of power. Furthermore, it extends to a self-sufficient economy of the village, commodity production being secondary for the direct producer, subject to the condition that he produces also a surplus that is appropriated by the exploiting class, of which a significant proportion may enter into circulation as commodities. Lastly, it refers to simple reproduction where the surplus is largely consumed by the exploiting class, which acquires it instead of being accumulated so that the economy and the society merely reproduce themselves on the existing level of productive resources and technology. Now let's proceed and talk about the development of agriculture before the consolidation of the British rule. During the pre-British period under the Mughal emperor, all land was owned by the king alone. There was no private property in land and permission for the use of land was granted by the king. In 1647, the ruling class comprised of the emperor and about 8,000 nobles. These nobles were either paid salaries in cash or were given large tracts of territory in which they were responsible for collecting revenue from the peasants and then transferring it to the state. Talking about these jagirdars or revenue collectors, they were often transferred from one area for the purpose of revenue collection to another. They were essentially officials rather than feudal lords. But on the other hand, zamindars bore a closer resemblance to the concept of feudal lord. Zamindars were also responsible for collecting revenue on behalf of the king. Although a zamindar did not own the land, but in many ways he had the characteristics of a feudal lord. He used coercive force and extra legal methods to extract revenue. Under the Mughals, as all the land was owned by the king, there was no question of land being inherited by either the peasant's family or the zamindars. There were no occupancy rights that could be alienated. While zamindars and jagirdars were in a position to exert authority over assigned tracts of land, their position was dependent on the favor of the ruler. Now let's talk about the impact of British colonialism.
It can be said without a doubt that the British rule brought change in the subcontinent. Some institutional changes that were initiated by the British were: number 1, the institution of private property; number 2, a legal system that related to property ownership; and number 3, an efficient government. These changes led to the consequences for land holding and agricultural production. Perhaps the main impact of the British colonialism was how it eradicated the petty dominant rule of zamindars. The power of a landlord that he had over a peasant had now been eliminated. The turning point of this new system was the permanent settlement in Bengal in 1973, which consisted of simultaneous changes in the social as well as economic rural structure. The outcome: peasants were deprived of land which now became the property of the zamindars. However, even so, the zamindars' coercive power over the peasants had demolished for sure. This settlement provided property rights to the revenue collectors, who were basically intermediaries between the ruler and the cultivators. The first settlement after the British took control included granting property rights to zamindars. They thought this would ensure their revenue earnings from him. This is when the concept of private ownership of land and private property, which was protected by a legal system, had officially begun. Soon after came the implementation of guaranteed rights, inheritance principles, and privilege of succession. The British believed land was state-owned on a tenancy basis and that payment of land revenue was necessary in exchange for the right to use it. The land system was coming to be known as a Ryotwari system, where the state was a landlord and the occupant was a tenant. Other changes that had an impact included introduction of monetary taxes, which had to be paid regularly. This led occupants to sell their crops to pay off the tax on land. Therefore, it led to the emergence of a market for agricultural commodities, causing the marketable agricultural produce to grow, meanwhile neglecting the other crops. The problems that started arising from the system were first observed when the commercialization of agriculture continued, in the form of land-owning peasant not being able to pay off taxes on the land. Moreover, initially tax was to be collected on fallow as well as cultivated land by zamindars and jagirdars. As a result of them being unable to pay off the taxes, the land was sold to merchants who had no direct involvement with the agricultural production. To overcome these serious repercussions of negative outcomes, the Britishers considered their political strategy, as a result of which in 1870 and 1890, a series of acts and laws were passed to protect the rights of zamindars. Furthermore, civil courts came into existence where acts of compulsory alienation of lands were introduced in case of non-payment of debt. Though the impact of the British rule was mostly negative, there were still some positive effects of it as well. For instance, new job opportunities were introduced as numerous jobs opened up as soldiers, drivers, etc. Not only this, but development of infrastructure also took place. The British completed building hospitals, schools, railroads, roads, and other projects. The standard of living had improved in remarkable ways.
We hope that our attempt of recounting the history of agricultural development in Pakistan from the pre-colonial Mughal times and examining the consequences of British rule for the social and economic relations of production of agriculture helped acquaint you with the concept of feudalism in its truest form. Thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it.